Hi, and welcome to Hoffman's Hot Seat. I'm Tom Hoffman with 121 Media, and I'm here today at the Frost & Sullivan Customer Contact event in Marco Island, Florida. And I'm joined today by Matthew Storm, who is Director of Innovation and Solutions at NICE Systems. And today Matthew and I will be talking about perceived customer behavior and how you go about matching that with reality. Matthew, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tom.
So I know you had talked about this in a presentation that you've made here at the conference, and there are some things that we think customers are doing from a behavioral standpoint, but we need to be able to verify whether or not those behaviors are in fact true. What are some ways that companies can go about doing that?
Sure. So first of all, we highly encourage customers that when they receive negative feedback from surveys, from an employee, from something on their website, possibly even in social media, is to reach out to the people that are expressing concern, detractors even, and willingness to recommend and net promoter score. But we also see that when customers give feedback, sometimes it's good to verify some of the feedback that they give. An example of that might be that through a survey, I might give poor scores. I might even say in verbatim comments that I'm going to cancel my account, or I'm never going to use your service ever again.
Yeah.
But in the end, did I do that? And also likely, we see customers that will say very positive things, I'm going to recommend you, yes I would, and then following up and just understanding how well is your referral program, how often do customers actually extend that or possibly do that. So we see that the customer's behavior in the session that I led this week is the other part of the VOC, voice of customer equation, that sometimes it's important to understand if it's real or if it's not.
So Matthew, just to play off that example that you'd shared with us, let's say if a customer indicates through a survey that they were highly dissatisfied with their experience, and they may even indicate, like you said, that they're thinking about cutting off service or business with a company. What are some ways that a company can dig deeper and find out whether, what the real likelihood of a customer defecting really is?
Sure, absolutely. We encourage customers that when they look at voice of the customer type initiatives to think about the three ways you can collect feedback. Those three ways are typically direct feedback. I ask you, you give me feedback back.
Right.
Indirect feedback, which is I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm not asking you for direct feedback, but in your comments and your tone and what you're saying, I'm actually getting indirect feedback. And then also what's called inferred feedback. So direct, indirect, and inferred. Inferred sometimes can just be inferred from CRM activity, or from web traffic activity, from usage. And so in that particular case, what we could see is we have a customer that's given direct feedback. Does their indirect and inferred feedback match it? And so in cases like that, tools like speech analytics to understand, is this just one customer or is it really a trend? Or using social media analytics to say, indirectly they gave us feedback in social media, and does it correspond with the feedback that we collected in an SMS survey or in some other mechanism? So that's how we try to encourage customers to make sure that they get all three aspects to get the full picture.
So, and that's great. Thank you for sharing that. So if we were to extend the discussion on that point, how might a company, once it's collected feedback from those three areas, how might a company then go about trying to devise a next best action with a customer?
Sure. And collecting customer feedback without action for a lot of cases is really just PowerPoint. And so what we see is a lot of customers will collect feedback, and then they'll use that information to make a beautiful PowerPoint chart, and they'll show it to some executives, and that's all it's used for. What we encourage is to take the negative and the detractors and the people from the feedback you collect and actually put it in a queue of action for specific people within the organization to be able to reach out to them. So a lot of tools on the market today will actually allow you to put that in a queue, and so either the agent or the supervisor's agent or maybe someone on a retention team could reach out to those in queue and pull them out and get that customer satisfied, maybe recover a customer who's about to leave or has just left, and then re-poll the customer. So those steps of queuing it up and then re-polling a customer after you've reached out to them is actually a full circle way to look at taking and making feedback more operational.
Sure. And one of the ways in which a customer shares feedback, as we've talked about, is through social.
Sure.
And there's been a lot of discussion at this event about different ways of, and how some companies are struggling with trying to identify someone that tweets, say, about a company and then trying to match them to, an actual customer or an account. And I'm wondering, can you share with us how technology might be used to try and do that type of matching?
Sure, absolutely. And it usually starts with cooperation with the people that are using social media within the organization today. That means sort of reaching across the aisle, if you will, to someone in marketing and saying, hey, I'm in the contact center. This information would be helpful to me. How could we work together? And if you look at the ways that organizations create social media communities, they're typically doing it to create a sense of community within their customer base, or possibly drive customers' behavior with promotions or maybe new offerings, like a hotel might send out tweets and alerts about new properties and offers and extend things like that. What we typically see is that marrying that information so that if I'm a customer of that hotel brand, for example, and I'm in social media with you in the community, how can that information be linked in CRM? And there are tools to do that, to make sure that your social media community for your organization is tied with the social media initiatives that are going on for marketing into the CRM information, so that either an agent can benefit on the front line by seeing social media information, or possibly even marketing might say, I'd like to verify what this customer's done. I can actually reach out in CRM and find out exactly what they've done.
Right. Well, Matthew, thanks so much for your time today. I appreciate this.
Thank you, Tom.